What's going on, y'all? So, as the title of this video suggests, I want to talk about something that I think is widely overlooked and widely ignored in the black community, and kind of give you a little insight of my story of where I come from. So that if you're going through this, if you're 15, 16, 17, or even older going through it, or you have a child who might be in that age group, it's very important what I'm about to say. So, I was always a weird kid. I took everything personal. I internalized everything. And just to give you some context, and I remember this, me and my mom laugh about this to this day. But I remember when I was a kid, I was in school, and I first heard the Chicken Little story. And I remember that night when I got home, I was hysterical. I started freaking out because I started thinking, what if the sky could actually fall? And it fucking terrified me. And that just gives you a little bit of context. And I was a kid. I had to be no older than 6 years old. But that'll give you some context of the type of anxiety that I felt that was always there. And I would go through these phases where things would happen and they would replay in my mind over and over again. And it would cause me to be extremely anxious or depressed. And where most people would just let it go, I couldn't. But it wasn't until I was 15 years old when, up until this point, I could pinpoint the root of whatever I was feeling. I could say I'm depressed for these 3, 4, 5 days because XYZ happened. I was pretty forgettable. Nobody was really paying attention to me, which was great. So that's why it was very odd. We're around 15 years old, and I remember this like it was yesterday, where suddenly I was just hit and stricken with this anxiety that at this point was incredibly uncontrollable. I had no idea where it was coming from, and it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop. And unlike before, when I would get these feelings, I could say, okay, I know I'm feeling this way because XYZ. I had no idea where the fuck this was coming from at all, and I couldn't stop it. It was hell. It was pure torture. And it would transition from anxiety to depression. These feelings of pending doom. And I gotta tell you, if you're watching this video and you've never felt that feeling of pending doom, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's pure psychological torture. And unlike it's somebody else that's torturing you, you're doing it to yourself and you don't know how to stop. It's fucking hell. And what I would later learn what it was a severe social anxiety. I can articulate it now that I'm 30 years old, but at 15, I couldn't sit down and tell you what I was feeling. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was. And you gotta understand, this is high school. I'm around thousands of kids. I'm around hundreds of people. And there's no way of avoiding that. So that's why I felt it all the time. And I think at this point, if I was to sit down with a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I think they would have salivated. They would have said, this kid's all fucked up. They would have gave me a cocktail of medication. But it went ignored. We didn't believe in mental illness in the black community. That's white people problems. Only spoiled, rich, middle class white people with too much time on their hands have manic depression and get depressed, and only white kids get depressed and they kill their parents and shit. And we laughed at shit like that because black people don't fucking go through that. And I couldn't talk to my mother about it. Because her whole concept was, you got clothes on your back, you got food in the fridge, you're not starving, you're not dirty. What do you want? She took it personal when I tried to explain to her that I was depressed. Why are you depressed? It's like, you don't got the right to be depressed. Okay? I went to school. I had dirty clothes. I had holes in my shoes. This is what she would tell me. I gave you, what more do you want? But she didn't understand that my depression wasn't a lack of her parenting. That it was just something that was internal. And what made this whole thing worse was that I had nobody I could talk to about this. I couldn't talk to my mom about it. I couldn't talk to anybody else because, first of all, I'm a boy. And, it's different. This is before the internet and everybody's all sensitive. There was no tolerance for that shit. I could never go to somebody when I was 15 as a boy, as a black boy, and then growing up in that community and say I'm depressed. What? You punk, you little bitch ass. That was the concept. What are you, a fucking punk? What are you, a pussy? You know, and I'm saying this because that was the mindset. White people had it. That's white people problems. White people get depressed and they take medication. Nigga, fuck, you know what I mean? We from the hood. We don't. And the thing is, it's a lot of teenage black boys right now who might be feeling anxious, depressed, and that's what drives them to the street. And that's what drives them to crime, because they don't have an outlet in their household with people that they can talk to about it. So I remember sitting there, internalizing it, and feeling alone, feeling that there's nobody I can come to about this. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, maybe I am a bitch. Maybe I'm a punk. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I nervous around people? What the fuck is wrong with me? And I'm using this language because that was the mindset. That was what was spoon-fed to me. You don't have anxiety. What the fuck is that? You know, the way we looked at it was that if you wasn't literally batshit crazy, you know, if you wasn't fucking walking around with a stick talking to Jesus, or you had to wear a helmet and you were licking the wall, if you wasn't that extreme of crazy, there was nothing wrong with you. You know, be a man, toughen up, straighten up. The fuck is wrong with you? Stop pitying yourself. You know, and it was damaging. And it absolutely made the anxiety 10 times worse. So I get to college. And at this point, the anxiety is to the point where I can't focus. It overcomes me. I try to read my textbook and I get so overwhelmed with anxiety that I can't even focus on the words on the pages. My grades are horrible. Okay. Even in high school, I had a little bit of confidence to me. Even with the anxiety, it's gone. My self-esteem is so fucking low, it's in the center of the earth. I'm miserable. I'm depressed. I want to kill myself. Okay? Only reason I don't do it is because of my mother's love. Because I know it would destroy her. And it would be selfish. And also, because of what I was told. You're not depressed. Those are white people problems. You're not anxious. You kill yourself because you're sad. You're a pussy. You're a bitch. You're a punk ass bitch. And that's the only thing. And that's at 17, 18. That's the only thing that kept me alive. I get introduced to alcohol. It was the absence of the anxiety, the depression, and it would begin about a 7-year spiral of deep alcoholism. So I flunk out of college. But before I do that, I take a psychology class. I get the textbook, and there's a section about mental illness. Now, keep in mind, and this is how ignorant I was. And this is where not only did the public schools fail me, but again, just the ignorance in the black community about this. Where at this point, I thought that mental illness and mental retardation was one and the same. I literally thought that. I thought that when I opened that chapter, I was going to read about mental retardation. And I thought that schizophrenics and retarded people were clumped together. You know, I've heard of manic depression before. I've heard of bipolar before. I've heard of OCD before. But again, these are spoiled, bratty white people. As my mom would say, spoiled kids that just need their ass kicked. If he whoop his ass, he be alright. I whooped that bipolar right out of the head. Fucking bipolar, fucking crazy ass white people. That was the mindset. But then I started reading it. And I started reading the symptoms of anxiety, social anxiety disorder. I'm reading it and I'm like, this is me. Holy shit. I'm reading the symptoms. Dizziness, fear, self-consciousness in public, nervousness, shaking, accelerated heartbeat out of nowhere. I'm like, this is me. This has been me for fucking years. For fucking years this has been me. Since I was like 12, 13. Can be depressed sometimes, can obsess over thoughts. And I'm reading this and nobody ever told me this. This is me. So I talked to the dean. This was Gettysburg College. Black guy. I think he was from Chicago, and me and him kind of had a connection. I felt comfortable. I felt safe talking to him. He was an older guy, probably 50s, and he kind of understood right away. He suggested that I talk to the psychologist in the school. And even then, even after opening that book and reading about it and being educated about it and kind of understanding that it was very ignorant to think that this is just a white person problem, I still didn't want the stigma. I'm not going to fucking talk to a psychologist. What, he's going to tell me I got a disorder? I didn't trust it. I sat down with the guy one time, and I never went back. So college doesn't work out. I drop out. And at this point, I'm 18, and I'm thinking to myself, I just have to accept the fact that I'm not normal. That I got this issue that no one will understand, no one will talk to me about, and I just gotta just deal with it the best way I can. The alcoholism is starting to spiral because at this point I'm self-medicating, and the alcohol is the only thing. And what I would soon find out, it was going to make things way worse. But at the time, I had a system. I had to drink before I went to work. I had to drink to go hang out with my friends. I had to drink to go on a date with a girl. I had to drink to go to family things. And little by little, I needed to drink more and more and more and more and more. And the depression, had turned into just resentment, this hatred, this anger for people, and I felt that way mainly because I was jealous. I was jealous of the fact that people could go about their lives and be normal, and I have this infliction. And I wanted to hurt people. I wanted to take that from them because I didn't have it. So I wrote horrible raps about hurting people, and it it made me. I kind of felt, good about it. At this time I got an apartment. I'm sitting here locking myself in my apartment and just running away with these fantasies about being some kind of ruthless serial murderer. I'm drinking, I'm doing drugs, and I'm just engulfing myself in this sickness and craziness. And then you realize that's not, no, that's not you. So I'm thinking, I can't kill myself. It's not in me to hurt other people. I go and I talk to a psychiatrist again. We sit down, and at this point I'm 21. She says, you have severe social anxiety disorder. I recommend you take Zoloft and Paxil. I get prescribed it. I take it for about a month and realize that it had turned me literally into a zombie. And I said to myself at that point that I would rather deal with the anxiety than feel nothing. Stop going to her, stop taking it, go back to the alcohol. And what made everything turn around is at 24 years old, dealing with this severe infliction for 9 years, I finally say, okay, alright man, maybe you got a disorder, but I'm not going to do the prescription medication. I can't continue to drink. At this point, the alcohol, I'm realizing that it's doing more worse than harm, more and more harm than good at this point. So I say, fuck it, man. I go to the bookstore. I go to Borders, which they, before they went extinct. And I suck it up and I go to the white people section. The self-help section. The make your life better. 10 steps to be a better person. Start feeling good today. But even then, I wouldn't fully commit. And I kind of went to this section. I said, let me see what the Asians got to say first. Let me fuck with the Asians. And if that don't work, then I'll see what white people got to say. And that's when I pick up a book. A book that a really good friend of mine, my buddy JB, kind of gave me the book years ago. I think I read 2 pages and put it down because it made no fucking sense. And I picked up the Tao Te Ching. And after reading about these mental illnesses, and I read the book about the Sybil book, the book about the girl with the 19 personalities. I read the book about Ted Bundy, Son of Sam. I engulfed myself in learning about mental illness. This was the next step. And I picked this book back up, and it changed my fucking life. And I started reading about Buddhism and spirituality and self-hypnosis and how you can creatively visualize, and it took me years to undo this infliction, but slowly and slowly I started to be able to center myself and find a way to deal with the anxiety without substances. And I say deal with because when you're talking about a chemical imbalance or something genetic, it'll never go away. And I don't want to give you guys the impression that I'm now on this level. You know, I'm 30 years old now where the anxiety is completely gone. It's still there. It comes and goes. It's still there. The depression creeps its way back in. But I've found a way to cope with it, to deal with it, to not let it completely destroy my life the way it did before. And the reality of it is it'll never go away. And some of us are just unfortunate enough where we just are going to have to deal with it. Taking medication, drinking, it makes it feel like it went away, but it didn't. At some point you have to face it, and that's why I do a lot of meditation. Now, my whole point of this is that I think back to a lot of, young black men who were teenagers, who might have felt the way I felt, who also didn't have anyone that they can console about it, who maybe felt like these are white people problems. You're a bitch, you're a pussy if you feel this way. And without having the type of love that they had in the household that I was fortunate to have, they went to the streets. They went to drugs. They went to crime. And no one ever addressed that maybe this kid has an illness. Maybe he's reacting and responding to the illness. Like we see, with white kids, they get that pass. Oh, he has anxiety. Oh, he's bipolar. That's why he acted that way. Motherfucker, black people don't got no motherfucking bipolar. Well, maybe yes, we do. So my whole point is this, and what I want people to understand, that if you come from that type of community and you feel that way, don't internalize it. Don't sit there and think that you're a punk or something wrong. Something is wrong, but talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. And if there's nobody in your circle who will understand it, speak to a professional. They're going to recommend medication. They can't force you to take it. I recommend you don't take it. But talk to somebody who's a professional. If you own your parents' insurance, or maybe you got a job and you own your insurance, seek it out. Don't feel any kind of way. Don't feel like you're less of a person or you're a fucking punk or whatever because you have the... Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody about it. And more importantly, to the parents out there, okay, who's watching this, and you have a child. Okay, and we all come from that background. Be strong, keep your head up. In my household, if I didn't have a limb hanging off and I wasn't bleeding, the fuck you crying about? Listen to them. Listen to your children. Okay, because you don't know what they're going through. And and at 13, 14, 15, they might not be able to articulate what their problem is the way I'm doing now, because I absolutely couldn't do it when I was that age. But listen to them. Be there for them, because I'm telling you, you might be saving their life. Pick up a book about mental illness if you come from that community. Pick up a book about mental illness and read about it. And don't be quick to label your child, but read about it and maybe kind of understand that they might be going through that. And be there for them. All right? See you on the other side.